Go ahead and start if you don't have any questions.
Yeah, let's go for it.
All right. Well, today I have the pleasure of interviewing Rigo. He's a old buddy of mine. He works in education. This is going to be a gotcha interview. Remember that time that you locked me in your basement with your two-headed snake? It's coming back to you now. So now I'm going to call you
Hey,
out.
but I put you down there with my little brother, so there was one of you for each head.
Oh,
You guys
yeah.
could have taken that snake.
Oh,
It would
that's
have been
nice.
fine.
That's thoughtful for the
Yeah,
snake.
I had faith in
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for taking the time today to talk to me to help me with this project. So the main goal of it is I really just want to start a dialogue about having people share their experiences and some ideas about what we can learn from this. There's a lot of bad things happening right now. A lot of times those rough experiences in life are the biggest teachers for us. This could be a collective learning opportunity for everybody. So would you like to tell us a little bit about your experience during this whole lockdown?
Yeah, sure. I think the last day of school was Friday, March 13th.
That's ominous.
I know, right? On the 16th and the 17th, we went in for a couple of hours. And so those days were basically just for kids to come to school, turn any projects that they may have needed to turn in, also ask for any resources that they may have needed. We had a food bank going at the time, so then kids could come in and get some food. And that food bank's still going, which is great. So even though we're not in school, we still have some people providing services out of the building. And we started online learning the first week of April. This is a new platform for everybody, so there's a learning curve for everyone. I think a lot of times we focus on, are the kids going to make it? And we don't focus on the fact that we're not set up to work in this way. So that, some of the obstacles that the kids are facing aren't from their actions. They didn't cause them. It's just other people are trying to learn, so they're slow to get back to kids. The communication hasn't been as frequent as it has been when kids are going into the classroom and things like that. So far, I've been really proud of the students that I work with and a lot of the students at our school because they've been resilient, they've been persistent. Seeing that self-advocacy, which I think is one of the most important skills that we can help students develop, has been, for me, a huge positive coming out of this new way of learning.
Yeah, speaking from experience, I know that you provide you're an excellent role model. What's been your approach to trying to help kids right now and to keep them on track?
Consistency and accountability, right? Like if I say I'm going to do something for a student, then go ahead and do it. There's been a lot of moving parts, but I've prioritized not moving any meetings I have with students, to provide that bit of consistency in a very inconsistent time. You can't expect students to follow through and to do their best and to be flexible and just get what they need done during these times if you're not willing to do the same thing yourself.
Have the kids faced any obstacles of like technological gaps and stuff, and how are you guys able to address that?
A lot of our kids didn't have computers, and so we spent a good chunk of time coming out of spring break making sure that our students were getting computers. So the district and our school worked together to provide every student who indicated that they needed a laptop. And then if they didn't have internet, then there were some resources that we were able to provide, hotspots, so then they can pick up like a little box that gives them internet so that they can do their work.
I think that's awfully inspiring, man, of like people pulling together to find some resources to help out kids. And I bet that has a really positive impact all around of like kids that never had a laptop now like might be picking up some new things online and some new skills that they might have only been afforded the opportunity a few hours a week when they got access to a computer at school. So that's awesome, man. Also, quick note, I just realized I'm drinking out of your face from Jason's bachelor party.
That was a great time.
Weekends of my life.
I still want to go back
sure.
to Vancouver.
Transitioning from professional life, how's like the personal life been going?
I mean, it's been all right. I'm fortunate. I'm in a home that I want to be in. I don't have to worry about my safety or stress like in my home life, which to me is something very that I don't take for granted. Like working with students, I know that we have some students in home situations where it's probably not the best place for them to be and they don't have a choice right now. I've just tried to focus on the positive, staying positive so I can keep moving forward and I don't lose my mind. It's about adapting and not taking things for granted and not being bitter.
So you're in North Denver. What is kind of the climate there? Like, I know things have been opening up again recently. What are you seeing lately and what are your feelings on it?
around us, things are pretty calm. I haven't seen too many instances of people getting too riled up about what's going on. It's almost like people are a little too comfortable. Like, just because they're not angry and shouting and protesting doesn't mean people are necessarily all for what's going on. There's a lot of people who in the neighborhood, you go for walks, they don't necessarily respect social distancing. They're not wearing masks. We just had the stay at home lifted, changed to a safer at home. But even when it was stay at home, the majority of people weren't wearing masks in public. So that's been a little bit frustrating. And the businesses, the grocery store is usually pretty crowded. There's a couple restaurants near us. There's a liquor store, dispensaries. The dispensaries always have people coming and going. Liquor store probably as well.
They're stressed out. They need their vices, man.
It's honestly like, if you were here and you were looking at the neighborhood, you would think it's like a normal day.
This apocalypse has been kind of boring.
Yeah.
Kind of let down.
For the most part, I haven't gotten any. There are people not respecting the rules, but I have, just in the neighborhood, I haven't really gotten any negative or angry vibes from anybody. So, take that as a win.
Yeah, it's just frustrating because, like, I've been tracking numbers, and we hover around 1,500 deaths a day. And that's a 9/11 every 2 days. It's probably going to spike again since we're opening things back up, and it's just frustrating that, like, people are kind of getting relaxed about the safer at home orders, because it's just like, we're not out of this yet.
Yeah.
And like, I'm sick of it too. I want to go to breweries. I want to go do that stuff, but like, I just don't think we're ready for it yet because the numbers show that we're not. It's frustrating seeing like such a division. It seems like our country always has to make things polarized. Can we not come together for a collective cause of like, this is a real issue, but there's been a narrative being built to like manufacture consent of like, it's time to reopen things. The cure can't be worse than the disease. Certain things like that just really get under my skin a little bit because it's just like, people are still dying, and the least we can do is try to minimize the spread of this. And there's simple safety measures that we can do to do that.
And we also haven't found a cure, so
yeah,
it's just sort of backwards. The longer we continue to push boundaries and not respect what the safety precautions that we're being asked to respect, and the longer these outbreaks and the longer this will continue to be an issue. And you said, like, you want to go out, you want to go to Rockies game and all that. I have a desire to do that too, but it is most definitely outweighed by my desire to not be a statistic in the second wave of coronavirus.
Yeah, like, I don't want to catch it and spread it to anybody that might die, and I might die from it as well, but like, also, I just don't want it in general. I am the definition of a man flu for sure.
It's also a luxury for us to only have to think about it in terms of our health. I'm fortunate enough to still be getting my paycheck, to still be working, so I can just sit back and be like, I don't want to get sick. Like you said earlier, there are other people who have to worry about losing their homes and putting food on the table, and I understand that. Quite honestly, like, I'd like to see the breakdown of the people who are protesting to see how many people are actually in that situation. While I do respect the fact that people some people do have some serious concerns about housing and providing for their families, some of the louder voices that I've seen aren't those people. And they're not speaking for those people either.
I've tried not to get politics too involved in these interviews because I want it to be a lot more positive about what can we do. But at a certain point, you do have to address the opposite side of our argument. And I think the excuse of like, this is an attack on our freedom is not a valid excuse, because like I used to be a registered libertarian. Like, I'm all about my rights and my freedoms. If me expressing my freedom is endangering other people, then that's not the right way to go about it, especially when exercising that freedom is forcing people to go back to work.
Someone's expression of freedom should not impede other people's freedoms. And freedom is not just one thing, right? The right to feel safe, in our everyday lives is an aspect of freedom. But I think, you're saying you don't want to get partisan, and neither do I. But to go to your original point about this impeding our freedoms, I think if we can all just like take a breath and sort of realize like how lucky we are to sit back and to even pretend to be offended by what's going on, as if that's truly an injustice or that our freedom is really being taken, is just like sort of like an only in America thing, right? Like freedom is what breeds that type of entitlement.
Mm-hmm.
And also, beyond that, it's a freedom that is not offered to everyone. It's not everybody in this country has that type of freedom to be able to just say, oh my goodness, this is an injustice because I can't leave my house. There are people who face real injustice every single day. There are people who have their freedom taken from them in our own country unjustly every single day. And I think it's one of those things where, again, it's like you have to take a step back and realize that it is, in fact, your freedom that is even allowing you to be pissed off about this. Outside of COVID-19, there really are injustices going on in our country. There are a lot of people in this country who are not afforded the same freedoms and who have their lives taken on a whim because they've been presumed to be a weapon just because of how they look, right? Because somebody doesn't think they belong. And it happens time and time and time again. And, to go further with that, we have women who have to worry about whether or not they're even going to have the freedom to control their own, to have a say over their own bodies. And not only do they have to worry about that, but now they have to worry about these, the protesters, using slogans like "my body, my choice" to describe whether or not they have to put a mask on, and the ignorance behind that, and the lack of, self-reflection as to where you stand in the society and what you're actually contributing to the society when you say something like that, regardless of what your beliefs are, when it comes to that actual issue. But to adopt that phrase and to so nonchalantly use it for something as if as if your issue with wearing a mask carries the same weight as a woman's access to healthcare and the right to choose for herself is, it's beyond ridiculous. It's appalling.
Yeah, true. It's like just incredibly ignorant trolling.
I hesitate to call it trolling because they're not just inciting anger. They're gaining support. They're starting a movement. It could be dangerous because they're starting to show up to these protests armed, which is, it's unnecessary.
Well, first off, that movement was an example of astroturfing, which is like a fake grassroots movement.
Mm-hmm.
It was funded by a bunch of right-wing businessmen to start to get a narrative going about, hey, we need to open things back up. And it was a very small percentage of people that actually participated in those protests, but they got so much media coverage that they actually got support from people around that had similar ideology. Okay, we still have the same common goal of we want to defeat this virus and we want to open up our economy. Like, we all want that. And people have differing ideas on how to do that, which is, I think it's still a good thing because like it still proves that we have independent thought and we are free to come to our own conclusions, but like we still need to be able to talk to each other and come to like a common good.
I think too that they represent a very small percentage of people. I think, going back to what you said versus, anecdotal evidence versus stats, we can look at how many people are protesting in its city and all that, and we can get riled up. Or we can, in my case, I can focus on the interactions I'm having with my neighbors and people in my neighborhood. We have one neighbor who, when she sees us, checks in, asks us how we're doing, offers us any supplies if we need any. We offer her supplies. Like, there is community being built through this, and rather just focusing on what you see with your own two eyes. Experiencing life is, it is a form of research. So trusting your own experiences and realizing that there is good going on here and not being sucked into it, because you're exactly right. It's polar opposites, right? When the fact of the matter is the majority of us are in the middle. Like, we're just trying to do right.
Yeah, thanks for switching this back over to the positive. Quite honestly, this project has helped me so much, and like as a therapeutic process. A lot of times I wake up and will like check the news, and it's just depressing. It seems like we're always constantly fighting each other, but like through this project, everybody I've talked to has shared a lot of like really good silver linings that are super inspirational. People being innovative and pulling together, developing new communities and stuff like that. So yeah, hopefully somehow that can get pushed in the media rather than them
Well, I think,
constantly feeling like they need to divide and conquer us.
yeah. Well, I think for me, it's been easy to avoid that because I stopped watching the news a long time ago. My
Good. I should
I
take your
say
lead on that.
we need to look for facts, not opinions, and learn how to decipher opinions. When opinion is disguised as fact. That is just how I approach relationships, anyways, with people. I'm not gonna, in general, I'm not just gonna take what you say, trust it, and live my life by it. I'm gonna want to know who you are, where it's coming from, what exactly the impact that what you're saying will have, and then I'll make my decision. We put people on news in front of a camera, and we seem to let that go. Like, oh, well, they're on a news channel, I guess I can trust it. It's like, no, they have their
It's
own agenda too.
it's a logical fallacy called appeal to authority. So it's not only like people trusting the word of the president or CNN or even John Oliver or the Daily Show. It's all of them. There is no such thing as objective news anymore. There's always some type of motive behind any station right now because they have advertisers to appease. It's good to try to stay informed, but you have to do a lot of critical thinking and do some independent research rather than just having an echo chamber. But so moving ahead then, what do you think that you'll be taking out of this? And what do you think people can be learning and using in the future in the post-COVID era?
If you can just carry a respect and a concern for other people, regardless of what your relationship is with them, we, these types of things would be much easier to navigate. We wouldn't be so divided. It's always important, but COVID has proven to be another reason why people should be learning this lesson and focusing on empathy as opposed to either sympathy or worse, apathy.
Yeah.
And if we could all do it, then it sounds like cliche, but the world would be a better place and all that.
Yeah. Sometimes like cliches have their purpose though. Like they're cliche for a reason because it's a good message.
Cliches become cliches because they're said often, and they're said so often because they're obviously relevant.
Exactly. And that's an important distinction to make too between sympathy and empathy.
The key differences between the two is that with sympathy, like if I have sympathy for you, what you're going through and who you are will not register an emotional response with me. Whereas through empathy, I'm able to more deeply take in what you're feeling, and it has an emotional response, which then, at its very basic form, leads to a personal connection. We've all had loved ones die, and there's a lot of people right now in this country and all over the world who are experiencing just that. So it's easy to be empathetic for the loss, to people who have lost loved ones through this struggle. Whereas sympathy is just like, sucks that people are dying. And then apathy is like, I don't care.
The good thing is, though, that we are the most empathetic creatures on Earth, just based on our mirror neurons and our computing power in our brain.
I don't know if I would agree with that either.
Oh, yeah?
Just because we have the capacity to do so doesn't mean that we do. And if we don't do it, then we can't say we are.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a spectrum between how empathetic each person might be. But overall, I think we are. But yeah, there's definitely examples of altruism throughout all of the animal kingdom, even in like worms and stuff like that. This is a good test for us to try to see how caring and empathetic we can be and how cohesive we can be towards working towards a common goal.
Don't worms have like 7 hearts? Doesn't surprise me that they might be empathetic.
Oh, that's a good one. I think octopuses have like a few too.
I think they have 2.
Yeah, they're scary, man. I'm fascinated, but also terrified by them. I think there's like some kind of alien. I thank you for spending time with me today to contribute to this dialogue. I really appreciate your insight and perspectives.
Thank you.
Can't wait to be able to see you, give you a high five and a hug because I know you love them.
Sounds good. Well, thanks for asking me to do this.
And thanks for using the editing skills, putting your editing skills to good use to make me
sound intelligent.
Oh yeah.
This interview, you look good.
Yeah.